Hello hero, it's Lucy Lanhorn. N is for Navidson, so I'm wearing my House of Leaves hoodie. I hope you can kind of see that. We're doing another Marseille Mini pick a card reading, this time based on randomly selected words beginning with the letter N, and this Marseille Viéville 1650 deck. You do not have to be of a tarot paradigm to view this. You don't have to believe that this is predictive, predetermined, any of that stuff. We're just going on a little thought experiment together, and if you want to believe in a little bit more than that, that's fine and you're in good company, right? So, with that in mind, there are 3 tarot readings today and 3 channeled readings. I know that channels aren't for everybody, so this is why I include them kind of separate to your tarot. If you would like to select kind of 2 piles rather than 1, if you think you would like a tarot and a channeled, then feel free to do that. My voice is going a little bit weird, sorry guys. But I will be shuffling live now and just kind of talking you through our little crystal helpers today. Again, you can skip that if you know whether you are piles 1, 2 or 3 yet. Or if you want to cheat, there will be a comment saying which word beginning with N each one is for. Just before you go, I would like to tell you that if you want to add new words to each kind of lucky dip bin / envelope, you are absolutely able to do that by commenting your letter and is for down below along with your word. I'll take anything except profanities and first names. Profanities because YouTube, and first names because we don't want to direct everybody's attention to one person at one time for ethical and indeed sort of online security reasons, right? So if you want to say something like M is for Megabus, I don't know. Even though we've done M, you are absolutely free to comment that down below. And I will add it to the envelope, and when it is added, you will see a little heart by it to show that it's secured for the next time round. I'm thinking when we do this A to Z again, it will be with the Pixel Occult decks, or deck. I haven't really decided which one yet. It's between the, I believe it's Technobrae or the Neon Moon. So if you have a preference, please put that down below as well. But like I said in previous readings, this will be a series that goes on for sort of several months until we get to the letter Z, which I do have words for. I'm quite impressed by that. I managed to think of a few to put in there without you guys adding more, but feel free to put ones in for the more difficult words like X, Y, Z sort of territory. Anywho. Today, in terms of crystal helpers, we have a tiger's eye and a labradorite. They're both palm stones, so there may be something to do with palms, hands, healing hands, that is relevant for you today. In terms of shared properties, I feel like they're both, it's kind of an as above, so below energy, right? This is very sort of airy-fairy, this one's very grounded, very fiery and courageous. So it may be that you're balancing between grounding and floating off. You might be doing astral work or something. You might be doing the LBRP suddenly, out of nowhere. Me too, it sort of came back, right, after many years of not doing it. In terms of other things, I think tiger's eye and labradorite being not opposite energies, but relatively different energies. It could also point to a connection where 2 complementary people are in some kind of relationship, one being very grounded, very courageous, very down to earth, and represented by fire and earth, and the other one being sort of very floaty, very intuitive, some would say very imaginative, inventive, and that person being represented by water and air. So if you know that these are dominant placements in the chart of you and somebody close to you, then that might be why these are out today. But as always, feel free to look up the crystal correspondences as we go. For some reason, I'm stumbling over my words, so that may be a common theme as well, because it's not always a thing for me. I'm sure you've also noticed a little wooden penknife and gone, why is that there? This used to be my grandpa's, so some of you are working with granddaddy energy or listening to granddaddy, and for others of you, you are connecting to an ancestor or perhaps somebody involved in stuff going on in World War II, because that is a World War II knife. I'm told it was standard issue at the time, but he left it with me. He was a very gentle soul, very anti-war, unwarlike, and his name was Peter, which I'm called to say in case any of you also have a grandfather named Peter, or Peter is a relevant word in terms of what you've come to have a reading about. That said, I think I've covered everything, so let's get to your piles 1, 2 and 3. Again, you can have one for tarot, one for channeled, so if you're drawn to 2, that's absolutely fine. We'll also be using the D12 to see which astrological house we're dealing with. You don't have to believe in astrology, this is just my way of honing in on which sector of your life the cards are speaking to. So, without further ado, I will meet you with pile 1. Pile 1, N is for... Let's have this one, shall we? N is for nosy. Excellent. I like to be nosy. It's not an ideal quality, but I'm not going to deny it. And it's in the first house. Interesting. We've got Aries energy coming in, or energy in terms of a focus on the self. So let's have a look at what your cards are. Already, we have an Ace of Pentacles, money matters, etc. Okay, 5 of Wands, interesting with nosy coming up. This wants to come out. That is a Queen of Pentacles, maybe echoes from, oh, now which pile was it? One of the piles in the M is for reading had these 2 cards in the same reading. Then we've got 3 of Pentacles, so again, emphasis on work, finance and the body this time around. And this one wants to hop out, which is the 10 of Wands. Interesting. Like I say, these did come up in a prior grouping together, and I've shuffled and shuffled and shuffled this deck, guys, so it's nothing to do with it being the Marseille. This guy wants to clarify. We've got a King of Cups in reverse. I'm just going to sit and meditate on your cards for a second. Hopefully you will not feel the cut. All right, pile 1, this is an interesting one. We've certainly got the money theme that I expressed kind of before I went on a little break. But I feel like it speaks to bigger issues than money, and I feel like the word nosy in the first house is here because this is kind of about your attitude to having money and what it is that you believe about yourself and your kind of identity within yourself, because my immediate thought when I saw that number 1 was like a North Node in Aries energy, right? For those of you who don't speak astrology or don't believe in it, this is just the sort of archetype of somebody following their own path very distinctly. The opposition to it would be a North Node in Libra, putting emphasis on partnership, on balancing of 2 opposites. But with the Aries North Node, it's much more kind of, we're done with coupling, we're not about to balance something out, we're instead going down a very distinct path that is to do with the individuation of the personality and one's own kind of hobbies, one's own relationship to the body, to the self, the personality, etc. So some of you are asking why that's relevant, right? I think there is a tendency within you, if you're seeing this, to want to be, to want to individuate, to want to go off down your own road. And there is a caution here from you, not from the reading, I might add, about the kind of nosiness or interference of others based on a kind of unspoken anthropological contract, right? I'm listening today to the music of Mike Patton, no copyright infringement intended. He's just rad and he helps me get into the groove of what I'm thinking. And he is somebody who, I'm not sure whether he has North Node in Aries, but for me he exemplifies the kind of Aryan will, the personality, the kind of forward movement, doesn't give a fuck what anybody else is doing, highly creative, also highly impulsive, highly unpredictable, all these wonderful things that make him somebody that many of us look up to, are also potentially downfalls of this kind of North Node Aries attitude, in terms of not just a lack of reliance on other people, but an active shunning of collaboration with other people, and collaboration is a theme we'll get to. The fact that he's on there makes me want to say that other figures that might have this kind of placement, this kind of energy to get you into it, are people like Aleister Crowley, Tom Waits. Other ones are escaping me for the moment. I also have North Node Aries and an interesting relationship to Libra, and indeed to familial and relationship houses. But there is a sense, if you're watching this within you, even if you don't have that placement, like I say, of a need for independence from either the partner or the group. And for many of you, this is more of the group, right? Because it isn't, the offering that's spoken about with the ace here isn't necessarily a group offering. It's from an individual, but you're worried about the perceptions broadly, right? Nosy is a word that we use when somebody's delving into your business with a potential to gossip about it later on. And I think that one of your fears in accepting whatever this is to do with gossip, to do with reliance on other people, to do with other people being nosy Parkers. Some of you who are very keen-eyed will see that when I spoke about a 5 of rods in the beginning, I was actually referring to what is a 3. I think this misstep on my part speaks to the quality of the 3 and the interpretation of the 3, because the 3 of wands can be many things, but one of the things it speaks to is division, right? Is separation. Again, this independent energy, this wanting to be away from people being nosy about your business. So overall, we're talking about a financial offer that's coming in or has come in recently. We're talking about maybe somebody lending you money or gifting you money, which you don't have to pay back. There is a kind of, with the Queen of Pentacles, there's a sense of richness, of value, any gender. There is an acceptance of some form of abundance. But from the reading overall, there's a definite energy of this abundance coming from without. And I don't mean that you necessarily sort of worked for it in an employment sense. You may have worked for it spiritually, but this is very much somebody coming in with something and presenting it to you, and you feeling uncomfortable with that amount or with that offer because of other people being nosy about it, and because of this instinctual individuation that you have. The song playing at the moment is God Hates a Coward. I feel like you may feel a bit of anger towards yourself and a bit of, you're almost asking whether you are a coward if you accept help, right? Because remember, when we're talking about pentacles, we're not just talking about finances. We're talking about any kind of aid which speaks to material security. So this could be, for some of you, a record contract. This could be a new house, which is sort of part paid for you. It could be a job that you feel you didn't quite earn, or which you got through some form of, I want to say nepotism, but obviously in a mild sense, right? I'm not accusing you guys of gaining anything you didn't deserve. But what I am saying is that there is some kind of gift from somebody else that grants you a level of security, and you feel a little bit uncomfortable about taking it, mostly because of the opinions of others and whether they become nosy, but also because of your need for individuation, independence, and kind of self-sustenance, right? The North Node in Aries, I mean, I know better than anybody. We sometimes push people away because we want to resist that offering of group help. We want to resist partnership. We don't want to receive handouts. We want to be able to say that we achieved it for ourselves, not out of any kind of stubborn nature or any nastiness, but more so out of an innate need for personal achievement, right? For those of you who subscribe to past lives, and I'm not necessarily in that camp myself, but the sort of mythology around the North Node in Aries is that somebody may have incarnated before as a North Node Libra and been very sort of systemic and codependent and interdependent in their previous positions. If you don't believe in past lives, there is also a kind of mythology with it that perhaps you are skilled at being part of a couple, but that within this lifetime with that placement, your challenge is to be skilled within individuation. And this is why there's this kind of climbing to the top sense, right? Where you don't want to take help, you don't want to take handouts. And sometimes, and again, I know this more than anybody, especially as a disabled person, sometimes that puts you in a pickle, right? It puts you in a position where you said, no, I'll carry all this stuff by myself, even though I can't physically handle that. Or no, I won't accept this financial help, even though I'm in a moment of crisis and can't make my own money for the time being, and I'm basically fucked, right? I'm not saying that that's the position you're in, but I'm saying to be wary of the need to be independent almost to a fault, or to the point where you're putting yourself in a not so great position. So what is the fear around this that's holding you back from accepting it? I think it's interesting that we have 2 3s, because 3s are about collaboration, cooperation, friendship, working together with other people in more than a couple, more than a dualistic sense. It's definitely a group vibe. And what I mentioned at the beginning was this sense of an anthropological contract, which is that for many people in that realm of study, the unspoken exchange of a gift offered is transactional, right? It requires something in return. And I think for many of you, maybe you've been gifted an amount by, say, a family member or a friend, or somebody who you actually don't want to know your business that well. And you're afraid that the exchange involved in this interaction is that if they help you out, they can nosy around your business and you kind of can't say shit about it because they can come back with, oh, but we secured you a house, or we gave you this money, or even if it's something minor, like I paid your way into this gig, right? Or whatever it may be. There's a sense that you're afraid that in receiving, there will be an unspoken obligation to give back to somebody who is nosy, who does want you to be perhaps reliant on them to some extent. And your near future does speak about collaboration because of the placement of this one. So I do think you will accept this, or I think you're at least playing with the idea and speaking to the person involved in more depth. I wouldn't recommend telling them your perspective in terms of this fear of relying upon them, because you don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, right? And you don't want to be rude. But at the same time, I would say, potentially stand by that as a concern. I absolutely think that you're on the money and that it factors in. On the money being, no pun intended. There's something else going on here as well with burden, right? With this 10 of Wands in the sort of, not the end position, but the undercurrent position. I think that you are overburdened at the moment anyway. You may identify with, I think it was pile 3 of my Emma's 4, but I'm not 100% on that. But there's a sense that you're struggling in several areas and that everything's a bit much, right? And this offer, although it's pleasant and although it's fortuitous, and some of you may even think of it as good fortune or as manifested stuff, it's a blessing and, I don't want to say a curse, but it's a blessing and a bit of a bugger, right? It's a bit annoying at the same time. It's a bit inconvenient because it does mean that you have to negotiate with somebody who you perhaps don't have time to go into negotiations with. If you do feel that there's an unspoken exchange between you, it's almost like you haven't got the headroom at the moment to set aside time to speak to this person about the fact that, no, it doesn't mean that I will suddenly always come round for Sunday dinners, having never done before, or it doesn't mean that I will sleep with you, or it doesn't mean that actually, because I got this job, I will then financially help you out in the future, because you may feel either unable to do those things or just like you don't fucking want to, right? Because the first house as well is very resolute, right? I think Aries is one of the signs most likely to tell somebody to fuck off. So if you don't want to do something, I don't think you will. Another thing that's sort of interesting to me in this is that we've got the King of Cups in reverse, sort of clarifying the whole reading. This can speak to letting your emotions get the better of you, and I would advise against that, particularly if you are feeling overburdened in this kind of 10 of Wands way. There's also a sense of things being like overwrought. There's the anxiety stuff that came up with this overburdened energy. But overall, it's like what is it? It's like, it's almost like feeling so out of balance on an issue that you descend into a kind of aggressive apathy sometimes, which again is a relatively Aries thing, and I dare say a relatively Mike Patton vibe, although I adore the man, right? But a lot of his music is that kind of challenge, shall we say, at a heightened emotional state. So there is also a sense that if you feel this person is nosying into your business, or that is indeed the cost of them giving you this offer of security in whatever sense, you are a little bit afraid of your own tendency to get a bit fiery with them, maybe get a bit over the top, maybe lose control a little bit, and I would caution you against that. But overall, pile one, I think you're right to question whether this comes with a catch, whether there is a loophole in the kind of contract, whether that be a written contract or a social one. I think you wouldn't have seen this reading if there wasn't a minor snag, but I also think you're maybe not in a position to refuse it, right? This guy and this guy together are sort of telling me that this is dire straits right now. So I think really the spirit of the reading is urging you into compromise. It's saying, yes, you want to be an independent, an individual. The next song is Sir, Yes, Sir. You certainly don't want to be responding to somebody like that. You're not naturally subservient. You don't respond well to authority. But also, there is a counterbalance to that where sometimes being too independent or being too aggressively independent, or, you know, putting forward a refutation of somebody's kindness is also not where you want to be. So the call really is to balance. And that, as I said, it's the opposite energy. It's the seventh house as opposed to the first. It's the complementary colour to this vibe right here. And again, it is the energy of cooperation as reflected in these two cards. So I think it's doable. I think it's possible. Communication is a big vibe with threes as well. So it may require a sit down and a chat in as polite a fashion as you can manage at the moment. But really, this whole thing is about striking a balance, right? And also about your attitude to receiving. For those of you who are manifestation community, etc., how do you feel about having money? How do you feel about having security? Is the block with this particular person or group of people actually a reflection of an attitude that you think money or safety would naturally lead to? You know, a sort of unexamined self-concept thing where you have fears about having money, about people nosying into your private business because you're in a position of privilege all of a sudden. So there may be a sense in which you could self-examine and see whether you're ready to receive the best that you can receive, right? And whether in the past you may have subconsciously sabotaged your own success, I want to say. Particularly because the song earlier was Sweet Smell of Success, right? So this is about your status as a successful person. Is that something that you approach with trepidation because of other people's reactions to success? Or is it something that you feel relatively at ease with and confident about? So that's coming up for you too. In either case, I hope that it gets sorted out. I hope that you're able to be rational and have a chat about it, and also that you are sort of helped out of whatever predicament financially or in another Pentacles way that you're in, right? This could be anything from lending a tenner to allowing you to stay at somebody's house after surgery because there are no stairs, to, you know, putting half in for a mortgage, whatever, right? You do you. I'm reading for a great number of people, hopefully, so many different situations will apply, but I do hope that you're able to reconcile your need for achievement and independence with accepting the kindness of those close to you, and also realizing that when somebody offers you something great, it's not always in the spirit of something negative. Take care. Oh, if you'd like to book a reading with me, by the way, links down below. I'd really love it if you like, subscribe, share this reading with anyone that you think would enjoy a lucky dip, etc. But either way, I hope it all gets resolved, and all the best, pile one. Okay, pile one, channel message. I want to reiterate as well, if you're new to this, that you don't have to have picked the tarot pile to pick this one, and vice versa. This is just for those of you who are drawn to the channel specifically for pile one. I'm seeing a hanged man, even though I'm not looking at the cards. So there's some kind of suspension here. There's a waiting period that's been going on, which may have been frustrating and may have required some level of sacrifice at your end. I know that's not the complete meaning for the hanged man, but that's what I'm getting from it. It's a kind of hanging around, waiting, being maybe a little bit bored of your circumstances kind of a vibe. What do we want to say about that? I think if being in kind of suspension and perhaps waiting on somebody else, or certainly waiting on circumstances to change in a way that is very much out of your control, has put you into a phase of maybe even depression, but certainly not feeling yourself, there is indication that that can be overcome and that things are going to get moving pretty soon, right? I'm not saying that for views, I'm not saying it for likes. If it was gonna stay shit, I would tell you. That's the kind of reader I am, right? I don't mess about. But in this instance, I think it's being mentioned because you're getting to a point of frustration with waiting around for it, where you're about to give up on a project or a person, or you're just getting to a point of despair where you're really not feeling yourself. I'm hearing all the static in this song and all the kind of dissonance. It's almost like everything is too noisy for you at the moment, which again speaks to the sort of burdensome energy of Power 1, so that may resonate. But, you know, if you have been feeling overwhelmed by the fact that you're waiting for stuff outside of you, that particular wave is going to break, right? And we're talking within days to weeks of this reading. I want to say 3 weeks max, right? So hang in there, is what I'm saying. I'm hearing you all groan, and I'm seeing the terrible poster with the kitten that says it, but that's what I'm being told to say, right? I'm really sorry, my dudes. What else? Cul-de-sac is on, so some of you, if you were in my M is for moving pile, you may be moving to a cul-de-sac, or you may be looking for houses on a cul-de-sac, or you may be in one right now. Let me know down below if that's true. But there's something with that. You may also have got the third channeled message for that particular reading that was about, I think it was the third one, that was about loops. If it's not the third one, I'll write down below which one it was. But, you know, repeating cycles, being in a kind of mental and emotional cul-de-sac. Again, waiting stages, waiting phases, looping around on the same fucking things and people is coming up big for you. If that is the case, that reading might be helpful, but I'm not here to send you to other bits of my channel. So what else is there? Yeah, for many of you, it's just a confirmation that you're in the right place. If, you know, you're in a cul-de-sac, or you've been looking at one recently or something like that. Some of you are working with, that's interesting. I got a Marion sort of picture in my head, but then it started like warping from a Mary figure into this weird like Aphex Twin style sort of face melding thing. I don't know how to, it's just like very warpy, right? So there's this kind of faces fading into faces. For some of you, if you're working under a particular pantheon in terms of magical and spiritual pursuits, your understanding of a particular deity or figure is expanding and sort of echoing in a different pantheon or in a different paradigm even. I'm all for that. I'm very syncretic myself in my own stuff, but it's almost like you understood a particular figure to be one thing, and now that's like stretching and warping and sort of, I'm seeing like taffy being pulled, right? It's sort of becoming something much broader, but it's still part of the same thing. So, you know, whether or not you work directly with deity or spirit or anything like that, there's a sense of an idea broadening into different expressions of the same energy, right? And if you're not at all spiritually inclined, this could be something like seeing the same theme within different literary genres or musical genres, or seeing a pattern in your own life turn up in aspects of your life that are very, very different from each other. You know, something may be doing something with your money that is also then doing it with your love life, that is also then doing it with, you know, education or your children or whatever it is for you, because this is a broad general reading for a large audience. But there's a sense that it all links back to one big thing, right? I don't want to get too Cthulhu about this, but it's all the voice of the one being in a way. It's all different facets of one energy. And I think your advice with that is to kind of go to the root as much as is possible from your current understanding and say, if I'm noticing that all of these kinds of things have something in common, that they're all facets or expressions of the same vibe, then my job is to go to the earliest or the biggest or the most coherent for me of that particular thing and take a really good look at it and study that in order to understand all the offshoots. I'm almost getting like a creature with tentacles coming off it, and I'm seeing the thing at the end of the Watchmen, like the comics, not the movie, where it's like all part of the same thing, but it extends through the city with its sort of, yeah, tentacles. It's very, there's like a lot of weird sort of hentai-ish imagery coming up, but it's like these are offshoots of the main thing, and you've been focusing on the offshoots, but you need to turn your attention to what it is that they have in common, because seeing one tentacle near one building over there and one coming up behind you from the subway is not going to do you as much good in terms of, you know, fighting or understanding the thing, whatever your paradigm, as following both of them to the main blob. I hope that that's making any kind of sense. I'm done with the Lovecraftian metaphors, I promise you. But it's a sort of strange... I feel like it's a weird pattern that you're noticing, so it's okay for me to use weird imagery with a capital W to describe it. It may be that there's a certain... what do I want to call it? It's like a collection of synchronicities that could be sold as a unit, you know? It's like a family of events. And they may not be a pleasant family, I don't know. Please comment down below with the nature of your different tentacles, right? But it's certainly, there's an indication that they're all part of the same beast or part of the same core idea. And that when you get to that core idea, there is a developmental shift which allows you to sort of go to the next stage and feel more confident in handling all of these different aspects together. The song is Honeymoon, so for some of you this is a romantic, I don't want to say a romantic core pattern, but it may be that the core pattern is reflecting in your romantic life again and again as a repetition, and that understanding your tendencies within your romantic life and your attachment style, etc., help you to get to the middle of the thing, right? So I think that's enough for that message, guys. Sorry, not telling you. I'm just like I'm done with that now. I'm seeing somebody doing sort of calligraphy with brushes and inks in the sort of like in ancient China, you know, with the sort of incredible rolls and rolls of parchment with all these sacred things. So some of you are doing calligraphy, or you're getting into, I want to say, what's it called? There's an excellent book by Belle Wen called The Tao of Craft, which is about sort of creating personal sigils and grimoires and stuff to do with Taoist calligraphy, but it's also sort of a broader practice and paradigm that you could use for anything, you know, sigils, conlangs, you name it. I've adapted it for a bunch of stuff I'm doing with colour and sci-fi at the minute, but yeah, there's something about making symbology, making written charged stuff. Some of you are getting into talismanic magic for the first time, and the big sort of feedback on that is good stuff, keep it up, right? Keep on with the calligraphy, keep on with the sigils, the talismanic stuff. I feel like the written form is a particularly good conduit for whatever it is that you're experiencing at the moment. And when I say written, I don't mean that it's not drawn as well. I just mean that when we think of pens and brushes, the first thought is to think of sort of writing in terms of calligraphy, right? But obviously they are also symbols, they are also drawings, so some of you may be artists as well. Either way, it's an encouragement with that particular thing. I'm being told to split the deck, which I don't normally do, but hey-ho. Right, Three of Pentacles. So there is a collaborative effort coming up that reflects on you doing this by yourself. So if you've just begun calligraphy or art or sigil making or something like that, on your Todd, then great stuff, keep it up, because in the future, not necessarily the near future, but there will be an opportunity to work with somebody else on that in a way that is very useful to you and indeed to them. So if you did sort of read this as a magical interpretation, this might be that you're later using it in ceremonial magic or coven work or something like that. And if it's a purely mundane affair and it's just something you're doing creatively, then keep it up as a kind of side thing. I don't want to say a side hustle, because we don't need to fucking monetize everything we do, right? You can have hobbies, but but you know, keep it up even if it feels a bit frivolous at the moment, because I think in the long term it will be anything but, and it will be something that is a creative collaboration with somebody else. Now I'm hearing graphic novels may be a thing, because I've already mentioned Watchmen, and then I'm speaking about creating images in collaboration with another person, right? So for a minority of you, if you identify as a potential illustrator or artist or something like that, that is on the cards, but only if you kind of keep it up by yourself in the meantime, right? Anything else? Some of you are, I'm seeing this reindeer on here, I don't know whether you can see it particularly well, but it is December as we're filming and it seemed festive, so I chose that envelope, but I'm seeing the antlers and I'm sensing like a defensiveness coming off you, as if you're in, I almost said rutting season, but it's kind of like you're feeling particularly competitive or antagonistic regarding one resource in particular. And when I say resource, I don't mean to flatten the sense of this, but it could be a person, right? It could be that you're in sexual competition for a mate, right? Or it could be that it's just that you're feeling protective over a certain thing. But there is a sense of like, I'm hearing like my team going, put your antlers away. And they're all like rolling their eyes and groaning and sort of falling back on different sofas and things, right? I'm imagining like the group of the dead from Truly Madly Deeply, and that sort of very colloquial interaction kind of a way, and they're all going, oh, for fuck's sake, put your antlers down, you know, put them back. You don't need to be as protective as you've been feeling the urge to be, I want to say. So if this is relationship related and you've been feeling like there's a need to defend your partner or a potential partner against onlookers, potential suitors, etc., etc., that need is not quite as pressing as you think it is. There is a sense of loyalty here. And if it's not something like that, it's just a thing of like, whoa there, simmer down, pal, yeah? Maybe take a seat. Don't get too protective over the thing that you're kind of most worried about, because actually it's not as terrible as it seems, all right? With that, I think that your pile is done. So I invite you to pick a different tarot pile if you haven't already. If not, please do like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. Comment down below anything that resonated, or indeed that didn't, because I like comments. And I hope to see you soon. Pile 2, hello. N is for... Which one is it? Front or back? Back, okay. N is for next. I'm hearing, I really, this is not to my taste, but I know it's to some of yours. I'm hearing Ariana Grande singing Thank You Next. I don't even know how I know that song, honestly, but here we are. I'm going to throw the D12 actually before I shuffle. Next what? Next in the third house. Interesting. Okay. And your cards. This one wants to play. Interesting stuff. This guy. Next, please. Do you want to leap for me, please? Because I kind of miss you picking yourselves, yeah? Sorry, guys. This one, all right. I would appreciate if you jump, though. Yeah? Can we have some? Thank you. There we go. This one. This one as well. And that's going back, is it? Okay. So, in case I didn't say in previous piles, I do apologise, but I'm going to read your cards now. You have the Knight of Wands, the Two of Wands, the Four of Pentacles reversed, the Queen of Wands, wow, very wandsy, and the Tower in reverse. I'm just going to meditate on these for a sec, and hopefully you will not feel the cut. Right, pal two, this appears to be the week for headstrong energies. You'll notice you have 3 Wands cards, which is already a very fiery, impulsive, quick momentum, creative, but also, oh shit, I fucked up kind of an energy. And then we've got the 3rd house, which is related to Gemini and speed there, quick thinking, high intelligence, but in a sort of very mutable way. So it's passing from one cycle intellectually into the other with an almost alarming degree of swiftness. Not to say that I dislike Gemini. I have some Gemini placements. I think it's a lovely sign. But when you've got that Gemini echo and you've got this stone here and then you've got this many wands and one of them is a knight, we're talking about rushing into some shit. We're talking about being a little bit too speedy, being creative, but in a way that is perhaps regretted later. As I said, your interpretation is actually pretty straightforward. At the centre of the reading, we have something about being a little bit too free with money. This can sometimes refer to gambling or recession or financial crisis of some kind. But when it's surrounded by the things it's surrounded by, I want to say that this is you spending too freely, perhaps on creative resources, as reflected in both the intellectual house and the creative suit, right? We also have the underpinning of the reading being in relationship to a Tower reversed, which is a crisis point that was not learned from. Something fell down around your ears, something was on fire, some kind of terrible outcome was experienced in your personal life. I want to say maybe even in your financial security, and you didn't really pay attention. So Tower in reverse with this in reverse makes me think of buying stuff for yourself that gets you into debt, or not being in perfect credit but kind of wanting to spend your money anyway. It makes me think of having maybe like a redundancy or a degree of recession, maybe a cost of living crisis if you are in the UK, but not really paying attention to that and just spending your resources as you would if it wasn't happening. And then reaching a point where, in a very Knight of Wands way, you sort of go, oh shit, I've galloped into that one and now I don't know how to get out again. What's interesting as well is that the Queen of Wands, although she is a very creative, sensual, active in the arts kind of an energy, she can also speak about self-indulgence to a fault. She can also speak about excess in terms of artistic pursuit, sensuality. So, you know, so sensual experiences like food, fucking, being surrounded by nice things, living your soft life. Again, my pile 2 of, I want to say red orange might be relevant if that's your thing. But, you know, the Knight of any suit rushes into some shit, right? Maybe not so much with Pentacles because he's a little bit slow, bless him, but particularly with the masculine suits, and I say that with the caveat that tarot isn't really about gender. You know, so with air and fire, he's rushing headstrong, headlong into something in a way that can be sort of interpreted as hot-headedness. It maybe has a bit of fire under the horse for this one, a bit of competitiveness, a bit of like, what is everybody else doing? I'm going to be there ahead of the rest of the team, or ahead of everyone else's ideas, particularly with this and this. And this one is about planning. So it's almost like in the recent past energy, you have been planning a project which you want to rush into, but I think which requires some form of financial backing, or at least will mean that you spend money in an unforeseen way. Birdsong is the song that's on. So for some of you, like, this is a really weird thing, but I'm going to say it because it's channeled. you've been buying like bird houses for your garden, hedgehog hotels, stuff for the cat, like cat trees, stuff for your dog that isn't necessarily stuff you need. And this overspending means that with this, whatever it is that you want to concentrate on, actually you're not going to have as many resources as you wanted to have, right? I feel like you've maybe wanted to live your soft life, and for you that is being in harmony with nature in some way, but then actually that's being quite financially demanding. You know, for some of you it's not putting a birdhouse in your garden, it's going out into the country for travel, for trips, because that is also referenced in these cards and indeed in the energy of a 3. Whatever it is, my dude, you have been excessive. There has been some overspending, whether it's in the recent past or in the distant past before this crisis occurred. This reading is your warning that the next time you do it, you're going to be fucked, man. That's not to say don't spend your money at all, but it is to say that if we were to turn this into the upright, lightning has struck. You are meant to learn from such an out of character event, from such an odd thing to happen. I mean, we're not on it, but one of the albums on this playlist is Odd Fellows, right? So it's an out of the ordinary kind of an energy. The next time your tower falls, you need to have the understanding of where to put your resources. And I'm afraid that whatever this project is, and for most of you it is creative, even if it's also like a personal sanctuary or personal hobby or whatever it is not where you should be putting your money or indeed your attention. Tiny minority, but I must say it for you guys as well. If you came for a love reading, this is big fuckboy energy, any gender. This is somebody they find very sexy and appealing. And this is a lack of giving love, right? So there's a sense of plan for this guy or this person to not be giving to this queen energy quite so much as anticipated. And this may be a repeated pattern in your love life, hence the tower reversed, that you didn't learn from the last time, in which case I do want you to pick up on the Ariana Grande thing and say thank you next, right? Just for now, this person is not going to reciprocate the amount of effort that you're putting in, or indeed your kind of status or what you want from a partner. As a queen, you wouldn't be dating a knight, right? You would be dating a king, a counterpart energy. So there's a sense of both going thank you next, but also sort of requesting that they move on to the next thing, rather than they come towards you and they could definitely offer dick or pussy or whatever it is that you're into, but they perhaps can't offer actual love, because sometimes this card is a withdrawal of emotion. It's yes, I have these feelings, but I'm going to keep them to myself forever, right? So that's just for some of you, and I think for the vast majority, this is a reading about managing your money, about getting out of debt, about not overspending on your hobbies, your passions, the sort of sensuality of your everyday experience, your soft life, your luxury life. But I think in either case, exercise moderation, exercise caution, and make yourself aware of how things have happened in past patterns in order to be ready the next time any of this crops up. Okay? I hope that was helpful. If it was and you appreciate the channel, you can donate down below. I'd really appreciate it, because this is my sole income and it is winter here and it is cold. But if you're not able to give at this time, or you don't want to book with me or anything like that, please do like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. Do pick a channel pile if you're drawn to it, and I will see you around the bend. Pile 2. Hello. The song at the moment is You Can't Win. I feel like that's a sentiment that you're expressing right at me. My energy is instantly sort of dropped from the tarot for pile 2. So even if you picked the same number for both your tarot and your channeled, there is definitely something coming through here about you not... It's not even that you're not feeling yourself, it's that you're feeling that there is no No course of action that you can take where you come out on top. That doesn't, excuse me, I'm hiccuping because I'm channeling. That doesn't mean that there is no course of action to take. It just means that for the moment you think that all of your options are not so great ones, right? But even within them, I'm being told to pass on that there will be a preferable option. You may have been drawn to pile... it was 3 of my MS4 reading, where we were in the glitch gang, and you were in the sort of ring of fire, and the way to get out of the ring was M is for malfunction, right? There was some kind of glitch in the system which provided a doorway through which you could escape your current situation. That may be applicable for you, but in either case, I think it's time to step away from ruminating on all of your options being poor, and instead try to evaluate them, maybe even like in a pro-con list, in a very objective way. I want to say a very swordsy way for those of you who have air placements, and to kind of assess as if it's happening to another person, like a close friend, which route they should take, right? With detachment, because I think you're going to be angry whichever direction you're moving in at the moment, if you've picked this pile anyway. But there is a good option. I think you just don't see it as good yet. I think it's in the guise of something more sinister, right? But I think if you pick the best of a bad bunch, or maybe even the devil you know in some cases is what I'm hearing, it will lead you down a path that you didn't expect. And as I say that, the song switches. So then you can win, right? You've gone from you can't win to absolutely anything is possible. What else is going on? I'm seeing the crosses on this card, and I'm getting like a Rosicrucian vibe. So some of you have been researching that, doing stuff with that. That's just like a confirmation if it's you. You may be very drawn to sort of knights and similar imagery at the moment. I think that did come up in a channel somewhere else, but I couldn't tell you what it is, so I don't expect you to go through all my readings looking for it. It's just confirmation if you are also in that knight pile somewhere. I'm seeing sunflowers as well, so I'm hearing somebody calling someone sunflower in an affectionate way. This may be, for those of you who identified with like an ancestral energy coming through, that may be what they called you or what you called them. And then for others, it's in a sort of more intimate connection. Somebody is calling someone else sunflower, and I'm hearing that whoever is being called sunflower, it's like warming their cockles. It's really putting a sun in their chest. So that's nice. What else? Okay, I don't know where this is going yet, but I'm seeing a river travelling through mountains, and it's glittering. And I don't just mean like the sunlight's reflecting off it. I mean it's actively shiny. It's sort of a magical river. I want to say like a Styx or a Lethe or something like that, but it's much more of an optimistic vibe than those things would entail. So some of you are dealing with sacred rivers or reading about a magical river or something like that. The thing it reminds me most of is the river running through Thra in the end of the original Dark Crystal movie, where there's like the unification of the two different sort of polarities / tribes, and the castle goes all glittery, and then the river's all happy again, and the land recovers. So some of you are in conservation as well, or you're particularly thinking about ecologies and sort of ecological systems as they're associated with running water, rivers, streams. You might be into like permaculture or something like that, and there's something you've been wondering about, like your clue is in relationship to the river running through the place. Okay? I don't know what that is, but I'm just being told to pass it on. Also, May be a crucial time for you because the song is May Day. I love this one. I play it every May Day. But there's also that may speak to a sense of urgency with some of you. If there is some kind of work with rivers or water, or unification, if the Thra thing hit, if you are a Dark Crystal fan, it's almost like you're feeling like this is Mayday, this is an alarm, this is the last time that you can deal with this. I don't think it's your last possible point, but I think you're right to treat it with kid gloves and with a bit of urgency. Like, if you don't get to it yet, or you don't figure out the problem yet, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's not Mayday. But at the same time, I think haste is a good thing, right? That's what's coming through anyway. Very strange sequence to get to that message, but okay, I'm up for it. Some of you as well, you're climbing a mountain that has a river running past it, and there will be a certain point on the mountain where you can see the light hit the river in a way that looks glittery, and I don't think that's observable from ground level or sort of close to ground level if there's a town halfway up. I think it's a case of you have to be climbing the mountain to see the glitter in the river. And that may metaphorically hit for some of you as well, particularly Capricorns, because it's all about mountains and climbing and achievement and 10th house, not 10th house, 10th house stuff. Sorry, my brain is all over the place today, guys. But yeah, there's something about that. There's something about the glittering river. So let me know in the comments, like, how did it hit for you? I don't know. I'm channeling for a great deal of people with a wide variety of backgrounds and lives. So I always like to know how things resonated for you in particular. But that's what I was getting. So let's move on to another one. Okay. Right, I was seeing an image of a beetle, and then I was told it was a scarab. And then the next song I'm seeing is rot gut, right? So I was thinking of things rotting away, things being eaten away. And the instant thing I went to is woodworm or some kind of mites in a house, wood lice. I think scarabs ate through stuff as well, don't they? I may be basing my scarab knowledge on like bits of The Mummy Returns. I honestly couldn't tell you. I'm not very good with bugs, but there is some kind of thing here about beetles or insects of some kind, or like I say, worms, if woodworm, kind of eating away at an environment or eating away at parchment or paper or something important. So if you've got something that you're feeling particularly protective over, or you're in charge of an ancient document or an artifact or something, in which case, please comment down below. I'd love to know you. There is something about protecting that thing from what it's calling rot gut because of the song, right? But this kind of beetle or this infestation of something, I want to say. For some of you, you have mice in the house and you're aware of it, but there is extra urgency in taking precautions against them kind of coming in further and eating away at your food or your possessions or whatever it is. For some of you, it's moths and they're eating your clothes, and it's a thing to take measures against that. I don't like to advise on dealing with infestation because I know a great deal of my viewers will be kind of vegan and not want to speak about that. But, you know, whatever action you see fit to take, whether that's protective measures or indeed destruction of a certain colony, if you like, there's something about bugs coming in, and there's something about material assets being disrupted or eaten away because of that thing. The other thing I should say on this is that my personal correspondence with mice is that they turn up when I'm ignoring having gone down the wrong path with something. I'd say wrong, like nothing's wrong, you know. We all go down different paths and get to different conclusions in different ways, but certainly when I could have got to a certain objective quicker had I not been an idiot. I've always had mouse infestations wherever I've been living or working or something like that, and it's mice specifically. And in my biggest faux pas ever, which is still in the process of fixing and took kind of 6 years to get to that point, I was given warning after warning after warning from the universe of like, don't go down this road, do this thing instead. And the final one of those warnings was mice, and I ended up in an apartment where they were running through the house. I couldn't do anything to deter them. They were on my bed. They were scurrying across all of my furniture. It was really awful. And it was kind of, looking back, it was the final point at which I could have been advised, yes, don't choose this thing, go in this direction instead. But me being me, and I don't know whether you chose Power 1, but me being North Node in Aries as well, I knew my own mind and I was going to stick with my decision, and I did, and it was a mess. Quite frankly, it was one of the silliest things that I could have done with my life and my attentions at that point. I won't say beyond that because I don't want to incriminate anybody from that time period or expand upon anything involved that might, give me away in terms of location or personal stuff. But let's just say I did a big fuck up around then. And the mice were the last warning, right? Friendly warning. But for some of you, you may share that correspondence of mice being a sort of preemptive slap on the wrist of like, really, dude? Really? We've given you so many signs and synchronicities that this probably isn't the best way to pursue this. And we're going to leave you with mice, and that's your kind of final... that's your final thing, and then we're just giving up and letting you do it, right? And in my case, I did do it, and dude, nah. So many aspects of my life were affected by one simple decision. It is unreal. And I'm not saying all of this to scare you, but for those of you who have had perhaps a sequence of things that could be interpreted as signs, could be interpreted as symbols, synchronicities, could be nudging you away from a certain person, outcome, school, location, thing of some kind, and you were like, nah, I think I'm imagining it though. And then you're seeing mice, and that's your infestation. Mice specifically, I hasten to add, not rats. But yeah, if mice is coming up for you and you've had those, I want to say warnings, then this is me telling you that that's exactly what they were, right? Turn back now. Not before it's too late, not because anything catastrophic will happen, but just because you know and I know, if you're this far into the reading, that that's not the best path for you. And if you've had any doubts, I'm giving you permission to act upon those doubts, right? I'm saying from the perspective of somebody who could potentially see a little further than you can down this road, make a different choice, yeah? It'll be easier. Again, it's only for those of you who are seeing mice or getting mice infestations, but I feel the need to share it. Anything else from this pile? Yes? Okay. What are we talking about? Right. This is going to be a difficult one to deliver. So the next song is, I'm not going to butcher the pronunciation, but it's a translation of the words natural disaster. Don't panic. I'm not saying that one is imminent. That's not the kind of reader I am, right? And then as I was saying it, I was picturing in my head a dear friend who has lost somebody dear to them, right? Again, don't panic. I'm not saying you're going to lose somebody. Don't be too trigger happy, guys. Hear me out. Those two things in conjunction with each other, in collaboration with each other, make me think that there is some kind of loss, grief for a circumstance, some kind of twist in the tail, turn of events that you are seeing in a way that is very disappointing. I'm seeing like a Five of Cups card. So you're focusing on the disappointment of the fallen cups rather than the potential benefit of the cups that are still upright, the things that you have to be grateful for. What I'm basically trying to say is there's something that's happened to you, perhaps something that you've lost, perhaps a path that you were unable to go down, or I dare say a person that sort of stepped out of your life, in a permanent or an impermanent way. But if it's a permanent way, you will already know coming to the reading. I'm not forecasting that, right? But you see this occurrence as being, I want to say, unnatural. You see it as being not just out of your control in a frustrating way, control reading, link down below, but being something that is like unfair in its status as what you see as an anomaly. It shouldn't have happened, yeah? And the reason I said this is difficult to deliver is because for some of you, this does speak to grief, and it does speak to, again, I'm not forecasting, I'm speaking to people for whom this has already happened. But for those people in that minority, it speaks to somebody having been taken away from you in an unnatural fashion or before their time, or dare I say by their own hand in some cases. And I, without, again, sharing too much about my personal life, you will have noticed breaks on this channel, right? And some of that is dealing with those kinds of things, okay? So I completely empathise, identify, and I'm so sorry if that's you, because I understand that it's a particularly difficult thing to deal with. I'm getting a bit choked up. Okay, we're back in the game, right? I want to say that the reason this has come up, whatever it is, whether it's a person, a circumstance, whether it's major or minor, is because you're identifying this as unnatural, and I'm being assured that it was a natural thing. Now, if I am speaking to those with the direst of circumstances, I'm not saying that that means that everything is fine or that it's fair or that it was natural for that person to head off, right? What I am saying is that it was not a process out of alignment with the overall paths of everybody involved and the overall, I want to say like the souls of everybody involved, for those of you who do believe in souls and do worry for souls in that sense, right? I'm getting at this in a very convoluted way because it's triggering my own stuff, but there is nothing that has happened to this person, to you, any of it, that is out of nature, that is outside of some stuff that was meant to create butterfly effects for other things to happen. There is always meaning in a situation. There is always solace in something. And I know that it's like a really fucking difficult thing to pass on when the only meaning that you can grasp from something absolutely devastating is, for example, family members and friends coming together over long distances to share memories of a person who was incredible, right? Or perhaps somebody's assets and resources going to somewhere else that they're needed, right? And then in a more minor sense, if that aspect is not your story, we're talking about a path that wasn't gone down because another one was more appropriate, or because that path would have befitted somebody else's journey in just that bit more of a tailored way, and you will find something that is more tailored to you, right? It sounds like a bullshit, everything happens for a reason thing, and it's not. Instead, I'm speaking to what is natural and what is unnatural, right? And N is for natural. And I do feel that this was part of an overall natural occurrence or cycle, even if all we can say about it that was natural is that certain things naturally happen to us all in the end, right? Or that it was natural for you to go down a slightly different path, or something like that, right? I feel, I don't know, I don't want to cheapen your experiences, and I want to be very careful not to invalidate grief if any of you are feeling it. And I'm also careful with grief on this channel in general. I don't like giving readings directly involving a person who is no longer with us, etc., because I don't believe in exploiting the grief of others for money, right? I want to be very clear on that. But for some of you, it's coming up that the thing that you considered to be unnatural was the loss of someone special. And what I'm trying to get across is the message from, whatever it is that you believe I speak to, even if it's just like part of your consciousness that wants to see this, that it was part of the natural scheme of things. It was part of the overall story, the overall design for some of you. And that may be incredibly frustrating to hear at the moment, but me telling you is an important part of accepting it, right? Oh God, I hope it was helpful in any way. I hate saying things like this, particularly when it's like something I've experienced and I know how difficult it is to adjust to when it feels very unjust. It feels very, there's like a cruel absurdism sometimes to the way that life goes, and I'm very much picking up on that in your energy. But I want to say, the words I want to use are, it was not outside of God, because nothing is, right? It was not outside of beautiful and wondrous and awe-inspiring cosmological things, because nothing is. It's just that it's a little bit abstract for us to get our heads round when we're the ones suffering directly as a result of what happened. And that doesn't get any easier as a process, no matter how much spiritual work you do. You know, I've been on some kind of a path communicating with one thing or another and doing one ritual or another since I was about 5. And I'm now mid-30s. And I still haven't fully adjusted to the idea that sometimes things are out of my control and they can feel dog shit at the time, and there's still a point. There's still a sacredness. And I understand that me asking you to have reverence for your circumstances at this time is something that's going to make some of you angry. But that is the message I'm being asked to relay, okay? And with that statement that this thing isn't unnatural, I want to say that, like, that is... that if we're following on the natural course of things, those who we worry about will be all right, right? Or they are all right, if you catch my drift. I don't want to be more explicit than that, because again, I want to be very careful with grief. But yeah, for some of you, I need to say that that's the case. Crikey. Okay, I'm actually going to leave it there, not just because I feel like that's the end of the messages, but because that was draining as fuck. And I'm so sorry if the sort of heaviest aspect of that applied to you. If it was a bit lighter, if you've just sort of maybe had an opportunity crossed out for you, you might enjoy my control reading. It was pre-2020, so it's a very different style to how I read now, but it is in the main page, possibly in the description box at this point. And whatever this pertains to, I hope that you do get to a point of gratefulness rather than suffering, and feeling that things are naturally progressing rather than that they are cruelly unnatural or oppressively unnatural, okay? Take care. Pal 3, N is for... oh, it's this one. There we go. N is for neat. I'm now hearing the Addams Family theme in my head, so some of you will have been watching the new Wednesday series. I say new, it's new at the time of filming, but that may be well before you're seeing this. Anyway, it's very good. And I say that as somebody who was like, nobody can replace Christina Ricci, how dare you? But here we are. And one last one, guys. What's the next one? Is it you? Yeah? Okay. And do we have a clarifier? Yes, but not that one. All right. This one? That one. Yeah, okay. Sorry. And which house are we in? Where is my D12? There we go. We are in the 8th. Interesting with that 3 of Swords cropping up. I'm going to meditate on this and get back to you. Hopefully you will not feel the cut. Pile 3. I'm just going to take my hood down because I don't know whether you can hear me quite as well when I'm in my little cocoon. Cocoon may be a word that's cropping up for you, or a song that you have on or something. I don't know. That was just a thing. But also you are cocooning. That is a theme through this reading, so that might be it as well. Okay, 8th house. I mean, it means many things, but I think in this case we're talking sex, right? So if you weren't here for a love or a situationship reading, something along those lines, this probably isn't your pile. I do apologise. Please try one of the others. But the undercurrent of the Three of Swords will have given it away to those of you who kind of do tarot. Let's talk through it in a sort of chronological order, I think, because I like ending on this. This has already been speaking to me quite a bit. So, you would like this process to be neat, pile 3. You would like it to be tidy. You would like it to be perhaps more manageable. There is also somebody within your life that would like things to be neat, tidy, manageable, and, dare I say, immediately available, particularly in a sexual sense. I think you've had a period of heartbreak. I don't know whether it's to do with the person that you're inquiring about or the person that has very clearly come up in this reading as somebody else, like making you an offer. But certainly you feel heartbroken over something. And with the Hermit in reverse, I feel like the sort of overarching theme of your life at this present time is that you're getting back out there. You're getting back on the horse, or you're returning to socialisation after a period of heartbreak, or you're just kind of being more active in some way. This could have been a minor heartbreak. It could have been like a little, like a small sexual rejection, like on an app or something like that, all the way to the dissolution of a major relationship. It could also have been a non-romantic heartbreak, but it's caused you to take a break from the romantic sphere. And I want to say you've been in very ruminating and intellectually going over stuff kind of energy, because there are so many swords in this reading, even though, like I say, I think it's a love reading, or more accurately, a sex reading, right? Because the connection that we're talking about in the present tense, I don't know whether it's more sexual because it's new, or just that it's more sexual in nature than stuff you've had before. But yeah, there's a sense that you're getting back to kind of daily life, and there's somebody interested in you, very interested, I want to say, who would like to be very sexual with you, who would like to take the weight off your mind, because they do perceive what's been happening with you to some extent, whether or not they sort of know why they're picking up on your energy having shifted or been a bit low or whatever. And they want to, give you a massage, let you cry on their shoulder, and then maybe get a bit of nookie afterwards, right? It's a very sort of, it's a nurturing vibe, but it's from a very transactional and intellectual place. We've only got one Cups card, so this isn't so much let me genuinely care for you as it is let's talk about it in a very all night kind of a way, and then maybe also that leads to other things, right? That's not to say they're just using you for sex. It's not to say that they're only interested in the sexual. It's just that this is the predominant energy for the moment. And the song at the moment is Action 13 Fahrenheit or 13 FH, right? So it's action is the dominant word, right? And swords are very action oriented. They're very sort of masculine, very active, very solar instead of lunar. This person is pushing for a result in a way that I think actually sparks a tiny smidge of resentment in you, right? Because you're not ready. The overall sort of message is that the healing process for you in particular is not that neat, right? You can't just leap into the bed of somebody having not quite figured out how to return to daily life after whatever this disappointment was. And I want to say disappointment instead of heartbreak so that it applies to more people, because this is a very general reading for a large group. Certainly with the Eight of Swords, you've been feeling extremely defensive about this. You may have kind of built walls around yourself. You may have had close friends, family members, etc. accuse you of being walled up. I don't think this is an entirely fair accusation if that has happened. I don't think you are a walled up person by nature, but I certainly think that in recent times, because of whatever has gone on here, and this ring has become very uncomfortable. So for some of you, it's the ending of a marriage, because I'm just going to leave that there. There are two rings, and one of them has left the building, right? Excuse me, hiccup, so that's confirmation. But yeah, whatever it is, you've kind of built some walls in a very intellectual, objective, systematic way up against the outside world, even as you return to it. It might take the form of something like getting back out there to friends and parties, but with a different approach to your interactions that is far more methodical, and then you don't get into the same kind of heat. If that is the case, you may enjoy my... which one was it? I think it was red. No, it was red-orange, pile 1, which was about stepping back out there after a period of like, should I though? And literally going to parties again and meeting people again, right? The present tense energy is the 4 of Swords. So this is about rest. It's about rehabilitation, recuperation, taking some time for yourself to just chill. For me, this is becoming a human burrito in a blanket and watching reruns of The Mandalorian, right? You may differ on that. Something else may be going on, but I'm noticing that this ring I've discarded is also a Mandalorian ring, or at least a Star Wars ring, should I say. Also, there's a turquoise one and a white one, and I got rid of the turquoise, so that may be significant to some of you. I don't know why, I just have to say it. But anyway, so you've been putting some walls up, but you are stepping back out there. You're in this energy of rest, perhaps just like excessive sleep for some of you. I'm hearing like 13 hours of sleep is needed, and you're sort of chastising yourself for needing so much sleep. But this is because you're in a process of emotional recuperation. It is easier sometimes for us to do work on the psyche or in work of a spiritual or psychic nature, work on the soul if you subscribe to that, if we're in a sleep state. So sometimes when you're doing very hefty stuff to do with shifting your life, ascension sickness type stuff, again, for those who resonate with that, there's a lot of sleep required, right? There's a lot of subconscious adjustment and rest of the physical body needed to transfer to the next stage. And I think that's the point that you're at. And I don't think that the person interested in you is too sympathetic to that thing. I'm not saying that they reckon you should be over it, because I think they do want to come in and help. But I also don't know that they would understand your need for quite this amount of rest at the moment. I think that they might be the kind of person to point out that you've put up walls and not fully understand why. Swords are also about communication, so this may speak to the need for you guys to properly talk about it, and I don't think that conversation has happened yet, or at least not to the extent that would grant them full understanding of where you're coming from. And again, it doesn't have to be that you've had a heartbreak or a divorce. It could just be that something in your life has been so disappointing, or you've had such a rough time with something, that now you need to be more methodical and you need to take some rest. And that isn't being understood by somebody who is interested in you sexually. Near future is the 4 of Cups in reverse. Again, this could be many things, but the instant way that I'd sort of vibed with it is refusal of an offer that's given, right? On the traditional Smith-Waite card, there is a person sat under a tree and there is like an offer from spirit of a cup towards them that they're kind of not looking at, not seeing, not receiving. And it often speaks to like an offer from the universe that is not being perceived. In your case, I think you are perceiving that there is an offer from this person, maybe even from universe. You know, maybe this person is somebody that you've desired in the past or manifested, or the sort of thing that you were looking for or asking for. But there is a refusal or rejection of their offer purely because it's not neat and tidy as all that, and you're not done yet recovering, right? And I don't think that they, as I said, fully understand that. So I think this reading is partly here to warn you that they may take that as an overall rejection and not just as rejection related to circumstances. Indeed, I go so far as to say that if this person hasn't given you an offer or tried to chat you up or whatever it is yet, expect that in the next few days, but approach it from the angle of, hey, I'm really up for this, but just not now, and here are the reasons as to why. Here's me expressing my truth, which is another swords thing, about what it is that's been going on with me, and doing so specifically so that you know it's not a problem with you. and that you're still around, still in my life, but you also know that this process of sort of mending myself is not going to be a neat one. It's not going to be quickly done with, kind of over with, all wrapped up in a bow, ready for me to start shagging tomorrow, right? It's just, it doesn't work like that, right? You know emotionally it doesn't, they know intellectually it doesn't, but I think that they need that to be directly expressed from you, and I don't think it has been. We're ending on the Ten of Swords in reverse, which, as you know, if you are a tarot aficionado, is the end of a difficult cycle. So this is an indication that this recuperation will lead to full recovery from you, whether or not you choose to then sort of come back to this person and say, hey, fancy it, you know, whatever. But also this is a card of comeback. And as soon as I saw it, what I heard in my head was LL Cool J. Ladies do indeed love Cool James if you're watching. But, but I heard the lyrics, don't call it a comeback, I've been here for years. Rocking his peers, putting suckers in fear. Basically it's saying like, listen, I've been here the whole time. I'm good to go, right? I was born ready, but you're not at that point yet. And I think that when you hit that point, it may be even overnight, and it may be that you're then on this person's doorstep like, right, I'm almost naked. Let's get to it. I'm ready. But it's kind of, there is an understanding that even though that outcome will be very fiery and very in the spirit of that song, the process to get to that is actually quite a slow one. And it's not going to be, you might be ready very instantaneously, but that doesn't mean that that moment of instantaneousness will happen tomorrow, if you follow. So there is going to be a comeback, there is going to be a full recovery, a kind of return to stuff. I feel it's like pretty inevitable to you as well, because this is a card of inevitability and reaching the culmination of a cycle that just had to culminate, right? There's no other outcome that you can affect by your current actions whereby you don't recover, or whereby you don't feel quite as, you know, vivacious and spirited as this card is getting across, and indeed as the LL Cool J reference gets across. But it's a thing of like, this is your okay from me to say, you're absolutely going to get to that point, and I love your attitude when you get there. You're going to be sassy as, you're going to be looking amazing, smelling amazing. This person, if they're still in the sort of, they're still in your view, if you like, they're going to be impressed by this new version of you that they're seeing. But you absolutely don't have to rush to that point from where you're at. And it is true that this is not a neat process. It's going to take time. It's going to take lots of sleep, lots of rest where you're not even thinking about the issues involved. It's going to take a more methodical approach to your interactions and communication, perhaps to guard you from the kinds of stuff that were happening prior. And it's going to mean a tentative stepping into the social world that is a little bit out of your comfort zone for the minute, and again is a gradual process. You might sort of step out and meet a bunch of people and then not be seen again for weeks, and that is okay. That is part of this. I do feel that this person will still be around at the end of that, whether or not you're still interested in them. But as I say, in either case, you're coming back to your sexual life, with it being in the 8th, with a great deal of sass, a great deal of confidence, back to your old self, I would say, the self that you were before this disappointment even occurred. So I hope that was helpful. If you would like a private reading with me to get more specific on anything, including your healing, that is absolutely available and is in the description down below. There's also a donation button there if you found this to be particularly useful, and it would help me through the winter because this is my sole income. But if you're not up for a monetary offering today and you just enjoyed it, please do like, subscribe, share with any friends that you think may enjoy as well, and comment down below how it resonated to the extent that you feel comfortable. And I'll see you soon. Pile 3, welcome to your channeled. There is a there's an appraisal going on. Could be professional, it could just be a reassessment of your situation. But there's definitely an energy coming through of laying everything out in front of you and going, this was like this was great, this was not so great. How can I sort of reboot and do things better? If you're seeing this live, it may just be like an end of year energy where you're sort of, laying out your diary for 2023 and figuring out what went well this year, what didn't. But like I say, it could also be that you're not watching this live and it's just a theme for you at the moment. You're looking at your past and you're, I'm seeing like a 7 of Pentacles in my head where you're sort of picturing what you've harvested, what you've achieved over a certain period of time, what needs to stay, what needs to go. And again, for some of you, because I'm reading for a general audience, this is a literal work appraisal, right? Whether it's end of year or not, this is you being evaluated under the eyes of somebody else based on your performance so far. So that is the sort of vibe. Anything more on that? If this is a literal work appraisal or something to that effect, like an evaluation from a professor I'm hearing or something like that, the very practical advice is make sure you've got enough energy going into this appointment. You might be rushing about on the day, or you might oversleep slightly or be doing something the previous day. Whatever it is, I'm seeing somebody like downing a Red Bull and having a big meal. So to me, that's like, make sure that you are energetically on a level to cope with whatever is said. That doesn't mean it's going to be negative, by the way. It just means that you're better able to take it in and evaluate it all objectively as well if you are well fed, well watered, you've had enough rest, and you're there on time. So that's a hot tip. I know it seems like I'm your mother or I'm giving kind of life advice that is a bit like obvious, but that is what's coming through, right? If it's an appraisal, show up in the way that you would want to be in your best mindset for the information and the retention of information that you want to receive. Because again, it's not that it's going to be a negative outcome, it's more that you're going to need to remember everything that's said in detail. And I want you to be putting your best foot forward in that sense. If it's not a literal appraisal, I think a similar kind of a thing applies, but it's in that much more Marie Kondo sense of like dressing for the life that you want and turning up in a way that is just as respectful to self as to the people around you. So if you are, I don't know, if you're a planner person and you're laying out your planner for the next year, make an occasion of it. Dress nice, make sure you're well fed, well slept, etc. If it's more of just like an emotional reevaluation of stuff, make sure that you have enough time to do so in a calm environment, etc., etc., right? Whatever this is, it's a kind of special occasion. And I don't want that to sound naff, but I think it's important in modern societies when our sense of ritualization is maybe a little bit, the milestone stuff is missing a little from secular society. I think it's nice to have these little celebrations of how far you've come and make them into a bit of a ritual, make them into a bit of an occasion. And I think that that's what this calls for. Whether it's that you need to show up professionally and just be on your best game, if you like, or whether it's that this is an entirely private thing that you're just doing for yourself. But, what I speak to is encouraging you to like, treat yourself as if you were doing this for somebody else, Put on some nice music, make the place smell nice, put on your favourite album, make sure that you have enough time allocated, etc., etc., right? There's a need for whatever is coming up next for this evaluation to be quite thorough. And again, that doesn't mean it's negative, it just means it's comprehensive. And in order for it to be comprehensive, you have to be on the ball and you have to be relatively relaxed and ready to be attentive to your circumstances, okay? Okay, so that's that first message. Cradle song is on, so some of you have been singing to a baby or something like that, but there's something else with that. What is this about? There's like a newborn, or some of you have been listening to the album Newborn, Top On, great stuff. I think, is it just the song that's Newborn? Am I just, yeah, it might be that the album's called something else, but you know what I mean, Muse. There's something to do with a small child here. Let me just tone in. I'm seeing a very young child's room that's covered in stars. I don't know whether they're glow stars or it's like a mural of some kind. If it is a mural, it's badass. So if you've been thinking of doing that for, you know, your own children, or maybe like a niece or nephew or friend or something, this is your guidance to say, like, go ahead with that. It would be amazing. I remember my childhood room had glow stars on the roof, but then also my mum did a lovely paint job of kind of a sunset type sky going over into a night sky with like sponge effects. It was really cool, especially to say that like money and resources were limited, and this is, you know, probably talking late 80s, early 90s for when she was doing it. So it was a damn good room. That's what I'll say. But if there is something to do with that, then go ahead. If this is a description of an existing child's room, there's a message about that child that wants to be put across. What is it? You may have been in, I think it was my M is for, where we had a communication from somebody and it was to do with your child. I think it was pile 2 of the tarot for that, because I'm seeing an M in something. Or an M made out of stars. This could be in relation to a Scorpio as well, because I always think of that as a letter M with like a swirly bit. But what is it? What is the message? Okay, this child is all right, but there's something to do with stuff at night time that is disruptive for them. So I don't know whether it's a noise level thing or the way that they're sleeping or something. I know that it's normal for young children to be up at night, but it's something beyond that. It's something environmental that is disrupting their sleep or causing them to be a bit anxious at night, or that they're sleeping in a funny position or something like that. It's nothing serious. But the sort of way that I was hearing it was, there's this mural of the night sky, and there was like this disgruntled baby voice saying, it's no good imitating night when I can't get through a night. So I feel like there is a kid that is not sleeping. And it's almost like measures are being put in place to calm them in the daytime, i.e. like murals and things. Not that that's necessarily the method, but you know, that's the symbol. But then at night time, it's like they feel that something is off, or there's some way of the system that you've got in place in care for this kid that is disruptive to their sleep, or they're not feeling good at night. If they're slightly older, it might be like a fear of the dark thing, and you might need a nightlight with stars, and that's why I'm seeing stars. There are some really great ones online that sort of change colour, and they're dim enough that you can phase them out eventually, because obviously you don't want to encourage your kids to sleep with the light on always, but bright enough that they feel safe, you know, and you sort of gradually alter it over time. But yeah, there's something to do with the sleep patterns of a kid here. And again, it won't be for all of you because it's a general audience. Some of you have nothing to do with children, but I feel compelled to say it. If you're the sort of person who is not at all drawn to having a family, excuse me, hiccups, this may be in relation to a pet, right? There's something about when you go to bed, there's something off happening for this animal, whether it's that they're trapped in a room that's a bit colder, or they can't sleep properly, or they'd rather be asleep in your room, which, you know, up to you as to whether you act on that, but that's the message I'm receiving. I know somebody very close to me who's particularly plagued by a cat who thinks that she should be allowed access to all the bedrooms during the evening, and she will parade the house yowling as a result, but then if she's allowed in the bedroom, she'll wake everyone up. So it may be something like that going on. But yeah, there's something to do with, I want to say a dependent of some kind, so be it a child or a pet, where their sleep is being disrupted, or your sleep is being disrupted by them being dissatisfied in the evenings or at night. Okay, we're done with that one. Let's move on, guys. There's something here to do with sedimentary rocks, with layers, with time, moving in layers, with... it makes me think of a childhood museum where you could sort of go down some stairs and it was like you went into a pit where you could see the strata of the rock, and then you could sort of see after it finished being layers and layers of stuff, you could see layers of different pottery from different eras, and it sort of went up to like normal land level, where it was stuff that you would have found, I don't know, in the 70s or the 80s or something being buried, but right down to sort of prehistoric stuff. There's something in that sense about the layering of time. I'm also seeing rings on a tree. So there's something about ages or eras of time here. You might be somebody who deals with that in a scientific sense, or you're just focusing on that at the moment. You're drawing a timeline for something. You're researching different parts of time. I'm hearing for some of you, you're writing a novel that deals with something sort of vast across time, like an epic that begins in one era and then travels to the next and the next. If that's the case, please comment, because I'd love to read it. But yeah, there's something to do with layers and time. And I mean time that's bigger than humans as well. I mean like history, and prehistory as well, sort of time beyond writing. But it's something about how all of this layers into rock. You might really resonate with crystals, rocks, stones. You might be the person who is looking up these two as I speak in more depth than I was able to sort of communicate. But there's something about strata, that's the word that comes through. And I'm seeing like cave paintings as well, but being lost in rock, like almost as if there's geological movements that are trapping artwork where it is. You know, and that applies to pottery as well, but this is specifically paintings somewhere that it's sort of in layers and layers. I'm hearing Song of Victory coming on, so I've got that right, but I don't know what it's about, universe. Can you give me something further? Is it just a confirmation for a bunch of people or what? Yeah, it's just a confirmation. Well, that was useful, wasn't it? I really thought I was going to get some kind of second message then. Cave paintings, go to Encino Man, go to this thing, you know, but apparently it's just about strata and it's just about layers of time, and you will get it even if I don't. So comment down below if you did, or give me a like if you did, because I'm really none the wiser on that one. Okay, what else? The number 12 might be significant in some way. Some of you have a lot of stuff in the 12th house or 12th house transits at the moment. I feel for you. It's a wonderful house, but it's sometimes a difficult house as well, depending on whether it's more at the belief end or more at the enemy's end of things. What else? Now I'm seeing trees again and rings of trees, but I'm seeing like sap and things being preserved in sap. So again, it's this preservation of a moment in time, but for the long term. Perhaps some of you are dealing with archival stuff and you're being asked to reassess how it is that you're, I want to say like saving your legacy. So an example that resonates with me at the moment, if you are, for instance, writing a grimoire or a book of shadows or something, have you considered whether the inks and paper and things that you're using are archival and whether therefore it can be a multi-generational book? Similarly, if you're putting something in a time capsule or preserving something for future generations in some other way, have you considered whether that item will degrade over time? Whether that medium will degrade? I'm hearing from some of you. Some of you are like filmmakers, or you make music or something that is locked into a very impermanent medium, like digital stuff. For example, if we didn't have electricity, we wouldn't have digital access to things. And there's almost like a requirement to preserve it in multiple ways. So if you write music, yes, save your music, yes, put it in SoundCloud, yes, put it in tape format if that appeals to you, whatever it is, but also write it on paper if you're able and make sure that that paper and that ink is lasting. Or send it to somebody who can preserve it in a bigger way. I'm seeing also like seed banks and preservation from an ecological perspective. You may also resonate with the channel from the second pile, but it's something about the methods of preservation used being as long term as like a mosquito in sap. I know it's a bit of a Jurassic Park metaphor, but it's this very long view of what it is that you have to offer the world. Because I feel for this pal, you're quite creatively talented, and it's important that that talent can be transferred to other people. Even within your lifetime, it might just be like, you know, I want to record all of my next album onto tape. Great stuff. But also, have you picked another medium you can back it up to that's a bit stronger than that? Or, you know, won't encounter the same problems? Or there's something about that. So you'll know better than me what that is. Because, again, reading for a large group. But there's something about that tree sap. You feel me? Something about legacy. Anything else? No, we're done. Cool. If you would like to book a private reading with me, the link is down below. There is also a donation button if you found this particularly useful and you want to help me out. If you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. Share with anybody else who would enjoy this kind of reading. Comment what resonated, what didn't. I love feedback and I'm not getting a huge amount of it just yet. But please help me in my efforts to grow the channel, and I will see you soon.